they've scored. It's Grant who's got the goal from the free kick, and we're heading for extra time now, surely.
Flamingo! It is 2-0, and that now surely seals the K-League title for John McVinney Motors.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, annyeonghaseyo. Welcome to the K-League United podcast. Matthew Binns taking the reins for this September international break edition, but fear not, Korean national team enthusiasts, as you are in good hands with our guest today. First off, joining us from the south side of the Han River, Steve Price makes his return. Hello, Steve.
Hey, it's been a long time.
Indeed it has, Steve. How's things been treating you?
Yeah, pretty good. Very busy. I think this is my fourth podcast or radio thing in 5 days.
Very much in high demand. Son Heung-min being the main reason?
Yeah, talking about him a bit. I'm sure we'll talk about him later as well.
I'm sure we will after the weekend he has had. But we should also welcome on our second guest, making his second appearance on the podcast proper for several seasons, actually. Branko Belan joins us all the way down on Jeju Island. Welcome, Branko.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How's it been on the island these days, Branko?
Well, football-wise, it could be better. We'll see what happens. Jeju snuck into the top six. We'll see where we go from there.
Indeed, we will. It's good to have you both here today as we preview what's in store for the South Korean national team ahead of their friendlies with Costa Rica and Cameroon, before then making way for a last-minute call-up that sees Paul Neat get valuable playing time at the end with a summary on K-League 1 round 33. But before we get into any of that, let's do a bit of housekeeping. It's been a while. So in case any of our listeners have missed it, our recent pods have been stacked with interviews, with the last 3 episodes featuring sizable appearances from Jeju United's Gerso Fernandez, Busan iPark's Valentinos Cielis, and Paulo Benton's forgotten option, that is Suwon FC's Lee Sung-woo, as well as some others as well. And finally, we have all our usual pieces going on K-League United, including, well, Branko's 3 weekly takeaways. Branko, we're going to hear from Paul in a bit about the pre-split weekend, but to give us a sampler of what you picked up on, what was the biggest takeaway for you from this weekend?
Well, I mentioned Jeju not doing so well lately, but you have to give credit to Gangwon. They had one option to get into the top 6. They needed to win, and that's exactly what they did. So that's a team right now that I think nobody wants to play. They have the chance to be the big spoiler for the rest of the teams in the top half, and watch out for them.
Certainly so, especially with one of their younger talents, which we're going to talk about later, Yang Hyun-jun, making this very Korea squad. Steve, did you manage to get to any games this weekend?
No, well, I woke up at 4 a.m. to watch Forest play awfully against Fulham, and then decided after that I didn't want to watch any more football all weekend, so I didn't watch anything. No.
It was probably for the best because, well, as a Seoul fan, you made the right choice given their woes down in Daegu. More on that.
I'm definitely glad I didn't take.
Yeah, they definitely did not turn up for that. Paul and I were on that one in the commentary box, and yeah, it was a very fun affair if you're a Daegu fan. Seoul, usual problems plaguing them at the back. But yes, we're going to touch more on that later on. Paul will be in giving us his thoughts on the weekend. But now it's time to tuck into a slate of friendlies that the KFA has arranged for this international fortnight on home soil, it should be added. On Friday the 23rd, that's this Friday, if you're listening to this podcast early, that's against Costa Rica over at Goyang Civil Stadium. And then on Tuesday the 27th, they are playing Cameroon at Seoul World Cup Stadium. Kind of a farewell game to be had there before they head off to Qatar in November. I guess the question I should ask both of you, though, is should these games have been in Korea? What do you think, Steve?
I think, of course, they should.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah, South Korea have had so much practice playing Qatar. They're probably, out of all the teams in the World Cup, they've probably played international matches in Qatar, one of the most. So they know what it's there. The weather in Qatar at this time of year is different from the World Cup, so it's not actually going to be beneficial for them to play there now. There's no point playing anywhere else because all the fans are in Korea. So might as well be playing here, getting football's there to be watched. It's there for the fans, so it's better to be played at home in front of as many fans as possible. I think they shouldn't have played in Goyang. I think they should have played that game maybe in Daegu or Busan, so the whole country could watch it. But apart from that, it should definitely be in Korea.
Yeah, I certainly agree with the not playing in Goyang part. I definitely don't agree if they had ended up in Hwasong or one of their other favourite non-stadiums.
I mean, the under-23s are playing in Hwasong, aren't they? I looked at that, I thought, I'll go to that game. Then I looked at where it was and thought, no, I won't.
Horrible flashbacks. They're trying to get to Hwasong. But Branko, what's your take on this? Do you agree with Steve, or do you have a slightly different?
I do. It's a good chance for football fans in Korea to have a closer look at what's probably going to be more or less the final World Cup squad. Have a look at them up close and personal, and hopefully there will be a surprise or two. I would like to think that Korea can challenge in their group, even as difficult as it is. So why not give the fans a chance to watch the team before they head off?
Yeah, no, they're certainly both good points, and I think that's a very good point as well about Korea's experience playing in Qatar and also playing in the Middle East as well. They have got experience playing in that climate as well. But there have been accusations leveled about at the KFA about wanting just to kind of maximize the revenue from such friendlies.
Without the revenue, then the kids don't get to play football. We can play the game in the USA for all the two people who support the national team who live in Kansas or something, and then that's not going to get the KFA any money to give to developing football in Korea.
Okay, well, we'll let that one be discussed. But I think you both make very compelling arguments there. And the squad that Paulo Bento has picked, the squad that will be meeting at Paju to be training for this game in Goyang. Well, it's got a couple of surprises, but a lot of familiar faces. We're going to run down. I'm going to start with the goalkeepers. In goal, we have Kim Sung-gyu from Al-Shabaab, Song Bom-kun from Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, and as a late call-up for Jo Hyun-woo, who was injured in the round 32 against Suwon FC, Kim Dong-jun has joined the squad from Jeju United. Steve, would you like to run us through the defenders? Yeah,
and I mean, we've probably all heard these names all before. We've got Kwon Kyung-won from Gamba Osaka. He's in there. Kim Moon-hwan, he's there as well. Kim Min-jae, who's having a great season, isn't he, over at Napoli?
Fantastic.
Excellent season. I'm sure you'll talk about him a bit later. Kim Yong-gwon, of course. Kim Jin-soo, Kim Tae-hwan. And then we've got a few players who've not played too much. We've got Yoon Jong-kyu from FC Seoul, who, I mean, he's played okay, I think, but FC Seoul's defence, you'd be thinking maybe it's a bit strange in there. We've got Cho Yu-min as well from Daejeon. And then, as always, Hongseol.
Indeed. And Branko, would you like to run us through the midfielders on that list?
Yep. Let's just call this up. Okay, for the midfielders, we have Kwon Chang-hoon, Na Sang-ho, we have Paek Sung-ho, Son Jun-ho, Son Heung-min, obviously, Yang Hyun-jun, really good addition there. Lee Kang-in comes back to the team after an extended absence. Lee Jae-sung is also in the squad. Jung Woo-young and Jung Woo-young, both of them. Hwang In-bum and Hwang Yi-chan.
Yeah, that's Jung Woo-young from Al-Sadd and Jung Woo-young from SC Freiburg. Two different positions in the central midfield. But yes, We'll be talking about those later. And up front, we have just 2 strikers, although, as you heard, Son Heung-min is registered as a midfielder, as he always is with these things. So you could very much expect him to be joining these 2 up top. But we have Cho Kyu-sung from Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors and Hwang Hee-jo from Olympiacos. So, some familiar names there, some surprises, as we said. I just want to go around some players to watch in that squad. So, Branko, just name one player who's caught your eye.
Well, at this particular moment, it's Kim Min-jae. Off, like Steve said, he's off to a really excellent start with Napoli. He played a huge role in their recent match over the weekend against AC Milan, made some goal-saving plays, basically, including at the very end of the match in the 6th minute of injury time at the end there. He's meshed well with the team. He's quickly grasped their concept of how they want to play football. He's even scored 2 goals. So I think his move to go to a top 5 league club, especially at this point in his career with the World Cup just around the corner, he's fully fit. He's playing well. This is the Kim Min-jae that Korea needs, and also the Kim Min-jae that fans want to see.
Indeed, he has been absolutely fantastic joining to Napoli, seamlessly joining Napoli, making the step up with so much ease. Steve, has anybody been catching your eye?
Yeah, I mean, Napoli, they're top of the league as well. They're in Serie A. So
that's
hopefully
right.
He stays fit. I think Korea really missed him in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think maybe not caught my eye so much, but I think it's going to be more interesting to watch is the battle up front with Cho Kyu-sung. Will he be able to really push Hwang Hee-jo for a place in the team? Because every time he's played for the national team, Cho Kyu-sung's looked pretty good, right?
Yeah.
He seems to score a few goals. He seems to fit into the system really well. And Hwang Hee-jo's had a bit of a tough summer. He did really well at Bordeaux, but unfortunately for them, they got relegated. And then it took him ages to find a club. He finally managed to move to Olympiacos, and they sacked their manager already. And then 6 games later, got in a new manager and sacked him again because he was even worse. And Hwang hasn't scored yet for them either. So it's a bit worrying for fans of the Korean national team to see him and Hwang In-bom both there at a team that seems to be in real mess right now. And could that mean that Cho Kyu-sung's going to take his chance?
Well, possibly, and I believe you have a cat there that is agreeing with you.
Yeah, the cat is very angry about the way Olympiacos is being run.
Quite, but yeah, I am very interested to see how Cho Kyu-sung fits in. He just came back to Jeonbuk. He's only played 3 games. He's looked good at Jeonbuk. He has scored. Now he scored a penalty. Quite the run up as well. I hope we're not treated too many of them. But he has seemed to have worked well coming back to Jeonbuk and working well with the wingers. I don't know how Bento will be wanting to play him, but I'd like to see how he fits in against Hwang Hee-jo and whether it affects Bento's selection process. For me, I've chose... This isn't a player I don't think is going to stand out. He might do. He's got the potential to stand out, but I'm interested to see how he does. And that's Son Jun-ho from Shandong Taishan, which he's been injured. He missed the summer friendlies. He hasn't really done much. And then the Chinese Super League, we roll a dice every week to see whether you get to play or not. But he is a quality defensive midfielder. We've seen that when he's been playing for Pohang, when he's been playing for Jeonbuk, and he has done well at Shandong as well. And in the CSL at the moment, he's got the most passes in the Chinese Super League despite injury, despite only having 13 league appearances. He's got the second highest for long passes, the 4th highest for balls into the final third. He's up there 5th, I think, for progressive passes. Only has 2 assists, though. But that might be more of a damning indictment of the people he's playing the ball through to. But he is a very talented midfielder. I don't know whether he makes the first team for Korea. I don't even know whether he makes the World Cup squad. But I was sad for him that he was denied his chance recently. And glad that he's going to get an opportunity in these friendlies coming up. But yeah, that's just me though. That's probably my John Book bias talking. Is there anybody else that you've picked out, Branko, that you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, definitely. Ikang in.
Oh,
also off to a really good start with Mallorca in La Liga this year. The team's record is only 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, but he's playing, which wasn't the case last year under the old manager. They have a new manager this year. I don't know if you guys recall or not, but Mallorca finished 1 point off relegation last year. So they didn't have a good season. Right now, he's got a 100% starting rate. He's played 94% of the total minutes, and his goal participation stands at 67%. Those are some pretty lofty numbers. It's his first call-up in 18 months. It's good to have him back. Remember, he's still only 21 years old, so there's a lot of room for improvement. But for him to not only be playing well, but for Bento to give him this chance to potentially be in the final squad for Qatar, that does wonders for his confidence after we, basically had these big expectations of him after he won the Golden Ball at the Under-20 World Cup in Poland back in 2019.
Indeed, he's a talent that many people many people are looking forward to seeing develop, but a lot of people very excited to see him in the squad. Steve, any thoughts on Ikang In you'd like to add, or any other players we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I don't think there's that many players in the Korean squad who've got an assist against Real Madrid recently, are there? So,
not many.
I think I can see why Bento didn't pick him last season, because he wasn't really playing much, and his team weren't doing that well, and he, as a result, was kind of struggling. And if you're going to pick players like a little bit on form, then you probably wouldn't pick him. But he's shown this season that he's definitely earned a place if you're kind of only considering what's happened this season. And I think he's got the potential to carry on that form and go into the World Cup and be that kind of wild card almost that can push the team on. So I think he definitely needs to be picked in this round, so Bento can have another look at him and decide how he wants to use him in the World Cup if he does.
Indeed. And before we move on, Steve, any last players you'd like to highlight for us?
Yeah, I mean, because the squad's almost fixed now. There's these names, they've been playing together for 4 years, so it's always exciting to see somebody new coming in and making a debut. So I'm looking forward to seeing Yang Hun-jin because of that. He's had a pretty good season for Gangwon, and he's also still only 20 years old, so he's going to be one for the future who we're all going to be looking out for. And it's only his debut season, but he's got 8 goals, 4 assists. He can play either wing, so he's very flexible in there. So it's great that he's got a call up, so Bento can kind of see what he can do.
Yeah, I love the confidence he has when he runs at defences. I mean, we're not going to take the result of a friendly against Tottenham too seriously, but I did enjoy his efforts.
He did play well, though. He played really well.
Yes, he did. Even the categories. But he did play really well there. But on a league level, as you said, 8 goals, 4 assists. He's just been all over teams this season, and against terrorizing defenders in this team, who he'd be playing alongside. And
he's precisely why Gangwon is the team that nobody wants to play right now, because of what he can do from a creative aspect going forward in attack. Indeed.
And Gangwon could really upset the apple cart a bit in these final 5 games in the K-League. But, well, perhaps staying even in the K-League, there are a lot of players that have made the squad, and Yang Hyun-jun a very surprise inclusion. But there are a few players who've missed out as well. I think there'll be one name that we're all going to mention. So maybe we're going to play the game of who mentions him first. But Branko, who do you think's missed out in this squad?
Isung.
Oh yes, that one. Never heard of him.
That's the first name that comes to mind for me, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that assessment. He's been absolutely great for Suwon FC this season, one of the best players in the league. I think coming back to Korea was a smart move for him, because it is a World Cup year, and he saw this as his best chance to make the World Cup squad. The previous stops in Europe before coming home didn't really work out so well for him, but this year he's really matured a lot, and he's been a spark plug for his club.
Well, yeah, indeed. And it still seems very surprising to me that Bento hasn't selected him. Steve, what are your views on these things?
Devil's advocate a bit there.
I knew you would. Well, there's a reason why I left you to back up on that one. Go for it.
Yeah.
Why do you...
I'm not sure the way Suwon play really is very similar to the way the national team play, for one. It seems to be like whack it up to Lars knocks it down, and then Isungu does something with it. That seems to be the way they play. There's so
Wait a minute,
much...
what you're saying is if we got Kim Shin-uk back in this national team squad, yes, I'm still going with the Kim Shin-uk jokes, it's 2022.
Right.
We could get the best out of Lee Sung-woo, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Steve. Please.
I'll pass those notes on to Ben.
Thank you. I've
that's
got loads of good ideas.
Actually, Steve, you make a really good point, because I was reading a media report just the other day. Bento basically said that Lee Sung-woo does not fit into our concept.
Yeah. And this concept is so important. Every single player is picked based on that, even if maybe they're not as good like for their club team as ever. We saw it with Kim. Who was it? There's another striker we saw it with. His name's just forgotten his name. But yeah, it happens with a few players where people are like, oh, they're doing really well in the K-League. They've scored so many goals. They've got to be picked. And they don't fit into the system, so they can't be picked. And there's so much talent in South Korea's attacking lineup. I mean, looking at the players who aren't in the squad this time, some through to injury and stuff. You've got guys like Lee Dong-jun, like Lee Dong-kyung, like Nam Tae-hee, like Song Min-gyu. None of them are in the squad. Some of them because of injury or because they're just returning from injury, like Song Min-gyu. But there's so many options there. I don't see why he would want to bring in a player who's had a chance before and is maybe a bit of a risk when it's an area of the squad that's already so strong.
Indeed. Well, he has got the goals that have... for me personally, I would have... There's been 4 friendlies in the summer and 2 more now. I would have liked to have seen him feature once. But you do make a good point. If he doesn't fit in... If he isn't ever going to fit into the concept, then perhaps it doesn't really work. It's not in Bento's plans to call him up.
The time to bring him in would have been in the East Asian Cup, I think.
Yeah, I feel that was a very much a missed opportunity for him, because that was mostly a domestic-based selection. And if he's not going to make that squad, then I think he was miles away from making this one, as you said as well, with the exclusions of like Song Min-kyu as well. there's players that Bento would still go to before going for Lee Sung-woo, it seems. But speaking of K-League players not making it, Steve, is there anybody else that you would have liked to have seen make the squad?
Well, I think it's kind of good that the squad is so settled, to be honest, because they all kind of know each other. They know how they want to play, how Bento wants to play. And when you look at some of the other squads, and I'll talk about Cameroon as an example in a bit, Ghana also won. They don't have settled squads like Korea. And so that maybe will give Korea a little bit of an advantage. They've had the same group together for 4 years, almost planning for this World Cup. And it seems wrong to start just chopping in players too much randomly based on the last couple of games.
Okay. And I was going to conclude my choice there. I would have liked to have seen Iki J instead of Hong Chul, I think, personally. But
you're going to say Kim Shin-uk for a second.
No. I've got to kind of end that. Maybe the jokes on that has died. He's not coming back now. He's not, as much as I long for him to make a return and prove everybody wrong. Yeah, he's not coming back. But I would have liked to see Iki J perhaps get a chance left back instead of Hong Chul. I think, personally, I still think Kim Jin-soo is the best left-back option, and I imagine he is going to be the starting left-back option at the World Cup. I think Kim Jin-soo is also having a bit of a renaissance these last few weeks at Jeonbuk. Despite the way Jeonbuk play, Kim Jin-soo's been playing quite well. And but Iki J would have been the one I would have liked to have seen. But that's enough about the Korea squad. After the break, we're going to have a quick look at Korea's opposition. Don't go anywhere.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Hello, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Matthew Binns here, and I'm joined by Steve Price and Branko Belan. And before the break, you heard us all talking about Paulo Bento's career squad for the upcoming friendlies against Costa Rica and Cameroon. But you didn't hear us talk about either the two teams that Korea will be facing. So, gentlemen, I'm going to leave it to you. Branko, the first friendly will be against Goyang. Not Goyang, sorry. That'll be a heck of a game.
Korea better win that
In
one.
Goyang.
Oh, well, no, reverse that back. The first game will be in Goyang between Korea and Costa Rica on Friday, the 23rd. Branko, could you give us a bit more information on Korea's opponents for this clash?
Yeah, I did some digging about them. Quite curious. They finished fourth in CONCACAF qualifying for the World Cup, but they qualified through the Intercontinental Playoff against New Zealand in June. It's their third consecutive World Cup, so they do have some pedigree now. One of the big changes, though, Keylor Navas was not called up for the team for this cycle of friendlies. The reason why is because he hasn't played at all for PSG. Gianluigi Donnarumma is the number one for the French champions, so he's basically sitting on the bench. So it looks like 33-year-old Esteban Alvarado could be their potential new number one, but he's only had 22 international caps, so not a lot of experience for a starting goalkeeper. They called up only 7 defenders, but several have experience, including Francisco Calvo, Oscar Duarte, Brian Oviedo, and Kendall Watson. They're all over 30 years old, though. Juan Pablo Vargas, he's around 28 years old. He could get a look, but he only has 11 caps for Costa Rica thus far. Brian Ruiz is still the captain, but he's 37 years old, so he's basically on his way out. What I see happening with Costa Rica after this World Cup, and we might even see a couple of their younger players in the friendly against Korea on Friday. They have a lot of new young players coming in. A lot of the older players are going to be going out. So this will be very much a different team. So I wouldn't be surprised if their coach experiments a little bit and gives the young guys a shot. Their top striker is Joel Campbell. He has 117 caps for his country, including 25 goals. And Anthony Contreras is an up-and-comer for them up front. He's only 22 years old. He'll probably partner the veteran in attack. They'll probably play a 4-4-2.
A very, very thorough preview there, Branko. Which players do you see causing particular headaches of Paulo Bento's squad?
You mean from the Costa Rican side?
For the Costa Rica side, or do you see any weaknesses in the Korea squad that Costa Rica may exploit?
Well, the thing is, Costa Rica right now has several players with more than 100 international caps. So I have a feeling they're going to start out with their experienced guys from the first whistle. A couple of the other names that come to mind: Celso Borges. I mentioned pretty much everybody else, but they've got quite a few players who've been in that team setup for quite a number of years. So the way I see the match going, they'll probably give Korea a bit of a run in the first half, hopefully, if we can squeeze a goal, maybe that would change, force the manager to change his tactics and maybe bring the younger kids in. So we'll see. I think the first half hour will be a good telltale sign of how the rest of the match could go.
Okay, well, I'll let you hold fire on the prediction until the end of the podcast, but thank you, Branko. And Steve, you've been keeping an eye on Cameroon going into this game.
Yeah. Well, also with Costa Rica, it's actually interesting that it's the first game under Paulo Bento was against Costa Rica in Goyang. That game, of course, finished 2-0, and Son Heung-min with a classic penalty, which he missed. So hopefully he won't be doing that again this weekend. But yeah, when we go to Cameroon, they got to the World Cup in pretty dramatic fashion, actually. They beat Algeria with a 124th minute goal in the playoff to get into the World Cup. So that's one way to do it, I guess. I think it's a bit unfair for the way African teams have to qualify, because no matter how well they do, they have that one game as a playoff. So it doesn't really do them a real good service. I think FIFA needs to rearrange how that's done so it's a bit fairer on teams in Africa. But yeah, they just got to the World Cup that way. They've, of course, they've been in the World Cup plenty of times before. In 1990, they got all the way to the quarterfinals and, of course, lost to England in extra time and famously beat Argentina in their first game back in Italia 90 there. But then after that, they've not been that great. They didn't qualify for 2018, didn't qualify for 2006. They were like the worst team in 2010 and 2014. So looking at their group this time, they've got Switzerland, Serbia, and Brazil. So they've got a very tough group as well. Yeah. So a lot of teams, when they choose their final friendly games, they probably want to pick a team that is kind of similar to one of the teams in their group. I think Costa Rica is probably quite similar to Uruguay, and they're going to be very physical. So I think maybe Cameroon picked Korea because they're so similar to Brazil.
I did pause for a second there. I think, Sonaldo doing it for it.
Exactly. So yeah, let's have a look at their squad. You remember when Egypt came and everybody was excited to see Mo Salah and then
I got tickets.
Yeah, everybody got tickets because of that, because so many people cancelled. It's almost the same with Cameroon. Their star players are not quite as big. We've got Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting from Bayern Munich and Andre Fang-Sambo Anguissa, who everybody remembers from Fulham in that season where they didn't do very well after spending loads of money, but in fact is doing amazing at Napoli, who are top of the league, and he's been one of their key players. But both of those guys are not in the squad, which is a big surprise.
But I've got tickets for this one as well, Steve.
So you better cancel your tickets because the two star players are not in the squad. The reason for that is head coach Rigobert Song, who actually played for Liverpool and West Ham in the past, is trying out some new players. And this is what Ghana are also doing, interestingly. For Cameroon, they've called up a lot of players who played for France in the past, either for France under-21s or other youth teams. Guys like Brian Mbeumo, who plays for Brentford. He's having a great time there. He's only 23. He's been phenomenal in the Premier League last season, so I think he's going to be a real one for the future. He's probably going to be their next new star player. Of course, he played for the France under-21s, and so he could actually make his debut here in Korea because he got called up as Rigobertson, looking to widen the field and see what options he has to have the strongest team possible in the World Cup. Some others with a similar background, we have like Olivia Ncham, who plays for Swansea, George Kevin Nkoudou, who plays for Besiktas, and Enzo Mboze, who plays for Udinese. All of them also have kind of played for France's youth teams in the past and are being called up this time. So I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic to the squad. They're going to have all these new players. How are they going to fit in? Nobody's quite sure. And they're all going to be really trying to prove that they can get in the World Cup squads. And that's why some of those other star players aren't there. It's going to be tough to score against Cameroon, I'd imagine, because their goalkeeper, Andre Onana, plays for Inter Milan, and he's a pretty strong goalie. So that could be a bit tricky. And probably their star player who's here, who isn't one of those former French youth team players is Carl Toko Akembi, who plays for Lyon, and he's got 30 goals in 72 appearances for Lyon and 12 goals in 50 appearances for Cameroon. So that's about their squads. It's going to be a bit interesting, a bit similar to Ghana, who in the World Cup have also called up a load of players with like different like were born in countries which aren't Ghana, but their parents are maybe Ghanaian or their grandparents are Ghanaian. And so it's a bit of an interesting dynamic there for people to look out for both for Cameroon and for Ghana, who are one of South Korea's opponents in the group stage of the World Cup.
One of England's opponents there, you nearly said it. But yes.
And nearly did. Hopefully not, because that means that they'll probably get through their group in Korea's expense. So...
Well, yeah, we'll have to see about that. But yeah, okay, Branko, that was very thorough, Steve. Thanks for that. Branko, anything else you'd like to add to Cameroon against this Korea squad?
Well, I think Steve nailed it. Ghana is one of the teams we face in the group, so I would expect maybe a similar style, physical, quick. Steve made another good point. A lot of young guys are trying to prove themselves and really want to get their shot. So when you play against these kinds of teams, there's a lot of things that you can't account for. So I think for Korea, being stable in the back, controlling the midfield, and trying to be a little more clinical in the final third, those are the things that they really need to focus on.
Okay, well, that kind of brings me into the final question before the break, I guess. What do you think Bento wants to achieve in particular with these two friendlies? I'll go back to you, Steve, on this one.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's more than just the friendlies. It's also having time to train with the players, with the squads, and work on stuff in Paju on the training grounds. The World Cup's decided often by things like set piece plays or that kind of thing, and he's got a few days to practice this. This is why I say it's probably a good idea to not totally change a squad match at this point, because you can really work on all those things on the training grounds and make the squad as tight as possible. In terms of the matches, I think Korea probably should win both of them, and he'll be hoping for that and hoping for a good performance. But at the same time, the result doesn't matter too much because it's what's going on behind the scenes. That's what's really important.
Mm-hmm. Branko, anything to add to that before to close us out?
Well, I'm a little concerned about the goalkeeper situation because we said at the top of the show, Jo Hyun-woo is out with left knee injury, and right now there's no timetable for his return. Why is that a problem? For two reasons. If he's out for an extended period of time, who's the number one goalkeeper for the World Cup? That's a question that we have to ask. A second question we have to ask, if it's not as serious, if he comes back for final A for Ulsan, how does he play? Can he build momentum again and then carry that into the World Cup? Because I think it's fair to say that most people, when you look at the original three goalkeepers who were called up, most people would pencil him in as the number one goalkeeper.
I'd say Paolo Bento won't, though. Paolo Bento will pencil in Kim Sung-gyu as his number one goalkeeper. So he's probably not too worried about it.
Do you guys really think that Kim Sung-gyu is a viable number one?
He's going to be the number one. Is Paolo Bento prefers him over Jo Hyun-woo?
I'm going to play devil's advocate and say I don't know whether Jo Hyun-woo's played that well this season. I think he's. I'm going to make it even worse. I'm not. Paul and I actually mentioned on the last podcast. We thought, and it's happened. We thought. Well, Paul thought I'm going to throw him under the bus because he's going to be on in a sec. But he thought, not quite me. I just agreed. But he thought that Kim Dong-jun should have replaced Jo Hyun-woo anyway before the injury. This was before the injury happened. Paul was a big fan of Kim Dong-jun. He's had quite the season at Jeju, and it's quite good to see him in the squad. I don't really know what Songbom Kun is doing there. He's just clearly the third choice goalkeeper, I would have thought, although Kim Dong-jun is the call-up. So who knows how Paulo Bento views that. But
I have to admit, I am happy to see Kim Dong-jun in the squad, but he looked a little shaky when he had his debut against China in the East Asian Football Championship. But now with Kim Min-jae back, and obviously he's going to be in the starting 11, he's a regular, he makes everybody around him better. So if Kim Dong-jun was to get a call in one of these two friendlies, I think he would have a lot more confidence knowing that the guys in front of him, anchored by Kim Min-jae, would be playing, would most likely play a lot better than they did.
Yeah, I think, but back to the thing about Kim Sung-kyu, Cho Hyun-woo, I think Paulo Bento does seem to prefer the distribution that Kim Sung-kyu does provide. I mean, to say that Cho Hyun-woo has bad distribution isn't true. He does have good distribution. He just doesn't have as good a distribution, it seems, statistically speaking. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, Kim Sung-kyu has been preferred in recent matches under Bento. So I think that's probably the number one. But it is a very good point, because if Cho Hyun-woo does come back, there's no reason why he can't push Kim Sung-kyu for a spot. We all thought that Cho Hyun-woo wasn't going to be the starting goalkeeper in 2018, and well, look what happened there. So
yeah, I think he's the perfect goalkeeper if something happens. So if your main goalkeeper gets injured or sent off, and the other teams then piling everybody on it, and you've got everybody behind the ball, and the other team's having chance after chance. His shot stopping is so good that he's the guy that if you have him on the bench, you know you've got a solid goalkeeper on the bench.
Indeed. Well, it's good to see that Korea's got reasonably decent goalkeeping options, because there is a good chance they're going to need them in the World Cup. But we are going to have a quick break. Paul is going to join us to go through round 33 and all the drama that ensued on split day. And then you two will be back to give us your predictions. So, listeners, don't go anywhere.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Before the break, you heard from Branko, Belan and Steve Price with their thoughts on South Korea's September friendlies. And while the two of them discuss further in the green room, we are joined by Paul Neat to help wrap up split day in K-League 1. Hello, Paul.
Hello there. I do hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Not at all, not at all. I would ask you what games you took in at the weekend, as I did with Branko and Steve, but, well, it's the same one as me, Paul.
Yeah.
We were both watching Daegu versus Seoul. Well, a little more than watching, actually. We were commentating even for K-League TV on the international broadcast. So overall, Paul, how do you feel we did?
I think we did all right. And actually, there was 2 goals in the first half for the first time. Usually the goals come in the second period. But, yeah, we had a bit of a late flurry, didn't we, towards the end of the second half. 2 goals. It was a decent game, I thought. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's always the same when you do commentary, you know. The first half is a bit, I don't know, you kind of find your feet, and then the second half is when you start to sort of loosen up a little bit. But I think those 2 goals helped us, I think. You know, it was good.
Yeah,
bad result for Seoul, obviously, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Indeed. Yeah, it does give us something to talk about, at least. So there are times when we're floundering a bit with we're waiting for something to happen, which is often the case in K-League, unfortunately. But
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but not the weekend. So we got lucky there. And yeah. And today we're going to be going through that game, plus the other 5 games which we've since caught up on. And, well, Paul, before we start, there's some news outside of K-League 1 we should first address.
Yes, Gwangju have won promotion. It was sealed on Wednesday night. That was because Anyang, who are in second in K-League 2, they lost 1-0 at home to Daejeon that means that mathematically, with 4 games to go, Gwangju have sealed the K-League 2 title. So congratulations to them.
Indeed.
Like I said, 4 games to spare, and they weren't even playing tonight. They don't play until Monday. And again, we've got runaway winners of K-League 2. Last year it was Gimcheon. The year before that it was Jeju. The year before that I think it was Gwangju again. They're becoming the boing boing baggies of K-League, a real yo-yo club.
Yeah, indeed they are. And they say Jeonbuk are ruining titles, but yeah, you look at the K-League 2 and it's runaway every year.
Every single year.
Well, we'll have more on Gwangju, I'm sure, in upcoming pods. But back to the title race in the top division. And, it was split day on Sunday with all 6 teams in action, with the league set to split into Final A, aka the top 6 teams, and Final B, the bottom 6. So, Paul, let's just run down the results first, I think, and before we go into each game individually.
Yeah, good idea. It was Ulsan Hyundai 2, Suwon FC 0, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings 2, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors 3, Gangwon FC 2, Jeju United 1, Songnam FC 1, Pohang Steelers 1, Gimcheon Sangmu 1, Incheon United 0, and Daegu FC 3, FC Seoul 0.
Indeed. And Paul, why don't you get started? Kick us off with the league leaders, Ulsan Hyundai.
Yes, I think perhaps the biggest headline from round 33 were the teams that missed out on Final A and those that sealed it. Defeat for Suwon FC against Ulsan Hyundai means that they missed out, and Ulsan keep their 5-point lead at the top of the table. Ulsan were without Choi Hyun-woo in goal due to injury, but the dependable Jo Soo-hyuk came in goal instead, and obviously a clean sheet for him. Back 4 had 2 Gimcheon returnees, Jung Sung-hyun and Lee Myung-jae. And Leonardo was preferred up top in place of Martin Adam, which was key. We'll come to that in a minute. Martin Adam was on the bench. For Suwon FC, the only real sort of surprise was that Lee Sung-woo was more of a central striker in a 3-4-3, but Lars Murillo, they were on the bench. But starting Leonardo paid off, I think, for Ulsan because he won the free kick that led to the penalty that he scored. So what happened was a lovely little first-time passing exchange with Vako. That helped Ulsan kind of break into the box. Not the kind of move or movement that you would expect Martin Adam to make. So I think Leonardo is sort of he's a bit more agile, let's just say, than Martin Adam is. So I think if it was the latter playing instead, he wouldn't have been able to sort of work their way into the box in quite a swift fashion that they did. The Brazilian was fouled by Guacuno, who had committed himself, tried to get back, but this was right on the edge of the box, so a free kick was awarded. Lee Gu-sung teed him up, but the shot struck the arm of Lee Sung-woo. He was fuming that the pen was given and got booked for his protests, but it was a blatant handball. I'm not sure really what he could have done, the referee there, really. So Leandro, having won the free kick that won the penalty, stepped up and with his extremely slow run-up, put the ball into the bottom corner with around 10 minutes on the clock. That was his 11th goal of the season, but first since August. Suwon had a bit of a go. They had a few chances to try and level, but the next goal of the game went to Ulsan. Lee Chung-yong in the 67th minute. A corner from the right, punched away by the goalkeeper, but only as far as Lee, who around 10 yards out and off to a slight angle, hit the ball first time through a crowded box and into the far corner. It was, I would say, a professional performance from Ulsan. They just did what they needed to do. For Suwon, just wasn't quite good enough on the day. I think just a bit of an off day, and they'll be very disappointed to finish in Final B.
Yeah, they will after performing so well throughout this season. But yeah, Ulsan, as I said, professional performance who did what they had to do. It'll now remain to be seen if they can do what they need to do for these final 5 games. History would say otherwise, but we will find out. Usually because of the team that played next, and that's Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, who travelled to Suwon Blue Wings and claimed a 3-2 victory whilst there. 5 goals, 2 red cards, overturned penalties, and ultimately a Jeonbuk win meant this sounded very much like the typical Jeonbuk Suwon affair we've come to expect. Suwon Blue Wings at home for this fixture and starting the day off in the relatively safety of 9th, found themselves taking a 16th minute lead thanks to promising youngster Oh Hyung-yu, who dived down to about knee height in order to head in the corner from overlooked national team left-back option Iki Jae. The home side were given little time to celebrate, however, as within 5 minutes, Elvis Saric had deemed to have fouled Cho Kyu-sung in the box. However, after consultation with VAR, the referee overturned the decision. File under would have been soft, but I've seen them given. Saric was then given a booking around the half-hour mark for an aerial challenge on Peck Sung-ho before being dismissed 6 minutes later for a reckless sliding tackle on Peck once more. Reduced to 10, Suwon had done well to hang on until the hour mark until conceding. In the end, though, defender Dave Bultuis would see his name enter the book for a handball in the box, his arm outstretched into somewhat of an unnatural position, although it did hit his chest first anyway, with Cho Kyu-sung subsequently converting his first goal since returning to Jeonbuk over a week ago. 3 minutes later, and the Green Warriors had the lead. Modu Barrow continued his recent goal-scoring exploits, timing his run through the Suwon defence to perfection to latch on to Cho Kyu-sung's through ball and calmly slap past the goalkeeper. Having been booked earlier, then Dave Bultuis would earn his second yellow card late on for a careless challenge on Cho Kyu-sung, who looked to have broken away from the centre-back. Down to 9, Suwon then shortly conceded their third, and it was pretty much game over. It was another effort from Barrow, taking him up to 5 goals in his last 3 outings. Jeonbuk did manage to concede a penalty themselves in the last moments on injury time. Suwon's Manabu Saito converting, but it proved merely a consolation as Jeonbuk head into the split on the back of 3 consecutive wins and 6 games unbeaten, remaining 5 points off Ulsan in first. And with results going awry elsewhere, Suwon saw themselves slip into 11th, with bottom of the table Songnam FC up next post-split.
Right, yeah, exactly. And, well, Suwon's loss opened the door up for Gangwon to seal Final A, and they did just that with a 2-1 home win over Jeju United. For Jeju, that result dealt a blow to their ACL hopes, but as we'll get to shortly, their top 3 and 4 rivals also dropped points. There was 2 goals for centre-back Kim Young-bin and 2 assists for Kim Dae-won, overlooked by Paulo Bento. The latter has 10 goals and 12 assists for the season. The former is now on 4 goals, his best return in front of goal, and it was the first time that he's ever scored a brace. But there was nothing out of the ordinary in terms of the Gangwon lineup and formation. Jeju in a 4-4-2. Nam Keel perhaps looking to channel his inner Mike Bassett in his attempts to bring back ACL to Jeju United. The only surprise really in terms of the lineup, though, was that Jin Sung-uk was in the starting 11 despite his red card or 2 yellows last time out. That decision was overturned. But the first goal, Kim Young-bin's first, was a proper centre-back's goal, a header from a corner, very powerful. Kim Dong-jun got something to it but couldn't keep it out. But his second was anything but typical of a centre-back. A free kick from the right in the 66th minute on the floor and a cheeky little back heel. Cue the celebrations and the sort of disbelief from Lee Young-pyo, who had to sort of double check that it was a centre back that had done that on the monitor. But that was it. But Jeju did pull on back deep into the dying embers through Sojin Soo, a very untidy finish after picking up a loose ball in the box. And you'd have to say that now that's Jeju's ACL chances are pretty low. They now sit 9 points behind the top 3. But for Gangwon, what a job there by Cheong-soo. He saved Gangwon from relegation last year. I'm not sure who it was that they beat in the playoffs. Obviously, someone very good, I'm sure. But now, top 6 finish, and given how tight things are, could even shoot up into 4th if they can sort of improve their form against the current top 5.
And, shooting up to 4th would put pressure on this team, Pohang Steelers, who dropped points playing away in Tanchon against Songnam FC. Pohang saw themselves lose ground on the top 2 as they found themselves having to claw their way back from a goal down against foot of the table Songnam. The Magpies found themselves in front early on, taking a 6-minute lead courtesy of Park Soo-il. A short 1-2 from the corner followed up by, either a cross or let's say a speculative shot, let's give them some credit, that saw itself nestle in the back of the Pohang net. As expected by their positions in the table, though, most exchanges throughout this half saw the Steelers mostly dominate. yet were thwarted repeatedly by Songnam's defence. Songnam did carve out an opportunity to make it 2, with Palacios driving at the defence of his former employers, running with the ball for about half the length of the pitch, but unable to convert his shot at the end. Unfortunately for Songnam, despite their valiant efforts, Pohang were able to find an equaliser. Wanderson, latching onto a cross into the box at the far post, did manage to pull his shot back across the line of goal, only for Songnam defender Kwang Song to get the final touch to convert it into his own net. So yeah, when you got your luck against you at the bottom, it's really against you. And while it may still have been a point gain for Songnam, it does little really to help their position as they head into the split 9 points adrift. They are now teetering on the brink of a return to K-League 2.
Well, indeed. And a team that would hope that they aren't heading towards K-League 2 is Daegu FC. They beat Seoul 3-0. This was a massive win for Daegu, who, thanks to this result, move up to 9th place in the table. And as you mentioned earlier, Matthew, we were on commentary duty for this one. And, well, let's take a listen to what happened.
Here is Ite Sok, Jonghyun Cho. Lee Sang-min. Yoon Jong-gyu turns, but he's into a dead end. And here's Zeka moving forward. He has 2 options. He finds Ko Jae-kyun. Ko Jae-kyun shoots. It's a goal! Just like he did when these 2 teams last met. He did against Jeju last time out. Ko Jae-kyun with another important goal for Daegu. Daegu have the get up and go when he's firing. And boy, is he firing this season. 11 goals now this season. What a finish that was. There he is, he's basking in it. Cue delirium in the stands.
Well, when will FC Seoul learn, Paul? Dispossessed again, playing it out from the back, and as we said before, Daegu like to counter, and that's what they can do. Lovely through ball there from Zeka to set up his teammate, and Ko Jae-hyun, what a finish that is from that angle.
Great finish indeed. Great play by Zeka, good strength, holds off the defender, and a perfectly weighted ball into Ko Jae-hyun, who an arrow into the back of the net. Kang Song-jin plays it in towards Park Dong-jin. It's all a bit messy now, but Daegu can get it clear towards Zeka with a lovely ball towards Zazinia. He's in behind. What can he do? The Brazilian inside. Can he shoot? He does shoot. What a goal! It's 2-0. It just had to be him. Zazinia, the driving force of Daegu FC for so long now. He's got his team out of second gear. It's 2-0. And a captain's goal. A time when they really needed something. Zeka again, fantastic. Zazinia.
Well, we talked about Zazinia's ability to listen, Zeka's inability to score. Well, they seem to reverse the roles here. And Zazinia does lovely there to take it on the inside and just slots it away.
That pass is just incredible. Zeka again, the vision that he's got. He's not just a goal scorer. So important to Daegu's build-up play, as is Zazinia.
And that now makes it 6 assists for Zeka this season.
Incredible. And that's it, it's half-time. Daegu FC 2, FC Seoul 0. Join us after the break. Here at Daegu. Daegu are right in the corner there of FC Seoul's half. Nice footwork. Can he get the ball in? Hwang Jae-won with the cross. Oh! Is it in? It is in! It is in! Lee Gun-ho, the veteran striker, with a massive goal. It was a great cross, a good header. Came out off the keeper, but he made sure it went in. It's 3-0 now. Daegu FC skill. Hwang Jae-won, lovely cross in. The header saved by the keeper, but over the line, he can't keep it out. Disaster of a day for Seoul, but what a result this could be for Daegu FC.
Excellent cross from the young midfielder, and yeah, Lee Kun-ho unmarked here.
Yes.
That's his defender falling backwards trying to get to him. Good initial save from Yang Han-bin, but not much you can really do about that follow-up.
Not really, no. 3-0.
What I would like to add is that there was just too much build-up play from Seoul. It was all very slow and predictable, and they need a plan B when they come up against teams like Daegu who like to counter-attack. Because once you commit yourself, as they had to after going 1-0 down, space opened up for Daegu, and it really just played into their hands. Both the first 2 goals came from Daegu really trying to find the right pass on the counter-attack. They are now 1 point above the bottom 3. Seoul just 6 points above that, 7 points above the bottom 3, 1 win and 5. And they played Daegu next, twice, once in the league and once in the FA Cup.
Yeah, exactly. They should be very familiar with each other by the time they get to that FA Cup semi-final. But yeah, and the final game of the weekend then was down in Gimcheon, another team struggling going into this weekend in 11th. But they did find a 1-0 win over Incheon United. Yes, it was Lee Young-jae early doors with a warning shot, firing from range moments after kickoff, hitting the Incheon crossbar. But despite that, the first half seemed to be mostly easy to clear crosses with no real chances for either side. Gimcheon did look to have taken the lead in the 53rd minute, though, for the goal to be ruled out. There was a mix-up between the Incheon defender Kim Kwang-suk and goalkeeper Kim Dong-hyun, and it saw Gimcheon's Kim Ji-hyun dart in between them, but the attacker was deemed to have fouled the keeper when claiming the ball. Gimcheon did grow into the game, though, and they looked the more likely of the teams to score as it went on, despite being at the opposite end of the table. Their efforts were eventually rewarded late on, though, when Kang Young-soo won the ball in central midfield, laid it off to Lee Young-jae, who, after hitting the crossbar early on, fired in from the edge of the area this time, deep into stoppage time, it should be added, to see Gimcheon climb up to 10th and above Suwon Samsung Blue Wings in the pursuit of safety. The result did also see Incheon fail to capitalise on teams failing around them, but they remain in 4th for now and still very much in Champions League contention going into the split. So, Paul, tell us how it stands going into the break.
Yes, well, let's start with the top 6. Ulsan first on 66 points, Jeonbuk second on 61, Pohang in third with 55 points, Incheon fourth on 49, Jeju fifth on 46, and Gangwon there in 6th place on 45. Into the bottom half of the table, Suwon FC are 7th with 44 points, FC Seoul on 41 in 8th. In 9th, Daegu, they have 35 points. And then Gimcheon, they have 34, sitting in 10th. Suwon Blue Wings also have 34 points, but they sit in 11th. That's because Gimcheon have the slightly superior goals scored tally, 39 compared to Suwon's 35. And then Songnam, well, they sit bottom of the table on 25 points, quite a bit adrift of the other 2 teams above them in the relegation places. So that's how it stands going into the sort of final A and final B, the final round as it's called. And the fixtures are out now.
They are, and they're out on kleagueunited.com if you're looking for a place to read them. Fixtures will be kicking off on October the 1st after this international break. There will be a preview next week, looking at round 33, preview on this podcast, as well as our regular previews over on kleague.com. But for now, I need to get back to Steve and Branko before they eat all the biscuits in that green room. So, Paul, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Cheers.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
Hello, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Before the break, you heard from myself and Paul Neat talking about K-League ongoings and the teams that made the split in the K-League One, who made Final A and Final B. But we're back now with Steve Price and Branko Belan, and we're going to quickly give our predictions ahead of Korea's friendlies against Costa Rica and Cameroon. First, let's go around the table. Costa Rica, Friday the 23rd. Who comes out on top between Korea and Costa Rica? Branko, what is your prediction?
I'm going to say 2-1 Korea.
2-1 Korea. Would you want to go as far as the goal scorers just for fun?
Cho Kyo-sung with the winner.
Ooh, nice. Steve, any other predictions for that game? Or
Well, I just hope that Son Heung-min won't miss the penalty this time, like he did last time they played in Goyang against Costa Rica. I reckon it's going to be the same as that one. I think it's going to be 2-0. I'm pretty confident in Korea's defense at the moment. It's pretty strong, and I reckon Son Heung-min's also going to grab himself a goal.
He is in form after his hat-trick at the weekend for Tottenham against Leicester. I am just going to match both of you two and say 2-1. And on to the game with Cameroon on Tuesday the 25th. Get that right? Yes. No, sorry. What am I on about? Tuesday the 27th. I have a calendar in front of me and I am not using it. On Tuesday the 27th against Cameroon. How do we see this one playing out? And I'll go the opposite way around this time. Steve, what's your prediction for that game?
Yeah, I think this is probably the more difficult game to kind of predict because Cameroon have such a new lineup as well. I still reckon Korea's going to win this one. I reckon it's going to be probably 3-1. I can see Cameroon have a few good attacking options, and so I feel they could definitely get a goal. Any mistake that the defenders make is going to be capitalized on. So I reckon 3-1 to Korea for this one.
All right. And Branko, yourself?
I'm going to go for the same scoreline as the Costa Rica match, but Korea is going to score the first 2 goals, and then Cameroon will find one in the later stages of the match. Who'll score, we'll see, but that's my pick.
Okay, well, just so it doesn't sound like I'm copying your predictions each time, Branko, I'm going to go for 2-0 Korea, and I'm going to bank on Kim Min-jae keeping that clean sheet for Korea.
Nice.
But yeah, I think we're all thinking Korea will do reasonably well in these matches, but that's it for this podcast. So if you'd like to follow us and find out more about Korean football, whether it's K-League or the Korean national team, you can do so at K-League United on all social media platforms, or you can support us over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/K-League United. Tiers start at $1, but the good stuff's at $3. And that's it for now. So thank you from myself, Branko Belan, and Steve Price. Thanks for listening.
정조선 공동 폭격기 김신우